1. Today I had a table, a six-top, of 4 guys and 2 girls in their mid-20s who I've had before, but I guess they don't remember me, and they claimed to be regulars. It was extremely busy, and I tend to get a little flustered when it's busy, but I always handle it and don't usually make any major mistakes. They ordered a bottle of wine at first, which I opened but broke the cork. I don't open a lot of bottles of wine, so I'm not very good at it. At first they said it was fine, and one of the girls commented that when she served, she broke corks all the time, and it's not a big deal. All was fine, and I went to get the other drinks, and when I came back, one of the guys said there was cork in their glass, and asked for a new bottle. Mind you, this wine cost $50. I went to my manager, and he decanted the wine and took all the cork out, and all was good again. They ordered their food, and everything was fine. I brought them out their food, and that's when disaster began. The main guy, the one who brought up the cork, said that his girlfriend's vegetable dinner was not cooked enough, and asked once again for an entire new one. I said I could just bring hers back, and they could cook it a little more, to which he seemed mad, but like what? So that's what I did, and then they all ate, except the girl. Then, at the end of the meal, the same guy says, "So who's the cook in the back today?" Like as if he knew all the cooks. And I replied back with the name of the cook, and he says, "Well, he did a pretty shitty job." I proceeded to ask what he did wrong so he could fix it in the future, and he says, "Well, me and my friend's steak was well done, and it was supposed to be medium rare." This was something that he could have mentioned to me earlier, and I easily could have fixed it. But he failed to. I'm not a mind reader. I just nodded and said I'll make sure to let them know. I then bring the checks. And at this point I feel bad for them because there were some problems with their meal, but our management is very strict and it's hard to ask for discounts without the customer complaining a lot because they are very stingy. I give him his check and he looks at it and says to me, "I'm not paying for the vegetable dinner because you didn't re-cook it. It was exactly the same." I said to him, "Okay, let me go see what I can do." And before I leave he says, "Also, try to take $10 off the wine because of the cork." So I go to my manager and I tell him everything and he says, "Okay, yes, we can take the vegetable dinner off, but I'm not discounting the wine because we fixed it." So I bring him back his new check and he looks at me and says, "There's no discount on the wine." And I said, "Yes, my manager wouldn't take anything off for that." To which he replies, "Well, I'd like to speak to him." Mind you, these people said they are regulars, so they should know who the manager is because our manager is very personable, and usually knows the regulars pretty well. So my manager goes over to him, and they talk, and then comes back to me and says he asked for a discount on the wine, which I'm not going to give it to him, but I'm going to give him 20% off the dinner because the steak was cooked wrong. I said, "Okay, great," thinking that they would be happy because we just took more money off their bill. I bring him back his new check and I told him we took $5 off your meal because the steak was cooked wrong. And he replies with, "Well, it should have been taken off fully." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't have the ability to discount things. Only he does." And he says back to me, "Well, is that the only manager you have?" I said, "Yes, unfortunately it is." And he replies, "Well, he's a complete douchebag." To which I just smiled and didn't say anything because what do you say back to that? Then he proceeds to tell me that his service was also terrible and I have zero hospitality and don't know how to take care of customers. He says that this must be one of my first days, but I've worked there over a year, because they've never seen me before and they're regulars, and they come in all the time and I didn't take care of anything on their bill, they had to do it themselves, and it's a slap in the face to be treated that way. So I literally just said, "Well, I'm sorry," and then I took their bill and walked away. They ended up tipping me $26 on a $270 bill. So, for all the time I've worked there, I've never been treated so terribly for all the things that were out of my control. It's so degrading when people talk to you like that, and now it resulted in me writing here. 2. It's just after the Christmas holidays, and everywhere in town is way quieter than usual. The first actually quiet day we had since Black Friday, in fact. 2 older women enter and order drinks, 1 decaf cappuccino. We're fresh out of decaf espresso pods for our machine. Gets decaf filter coffee instead, all is well. She orders a grilled chicken burger from the kids menu, which is a fairly common thing for older folk to do. When it arrives, oh dear, she has supposedly asked for no cheese. back to the kitchen it goes, and I notice she looks annoyed. I let her know that we can scrape the cheese off as best we can or make her a new one, which will take about 7 minutes. A scoff. "That's ridiculous, my friend's going to be eating. You understand, this is really messing up our day." I stand for a moment, not quite sure how to respond to that. 7 minutes is 7 minutes, and I don't mean to profile, but they didn't seem like they were in a hurry, considering how long they sat around before they ordered, and how long they remained after paying. Eventually I respond that I know it's annoying, and the fault is entirely on us, and we apologize for the inconvenience. The waiter who took their order, who has been working here for years, has rarely made mistakes like that, even with massive tables, claimed later that she had never asked for no cheese, and that he had read the order back to them to be certain. Sighing, she apparently lets it go and asks for a bottle of water. I immediately get her one. It goes completely untouched even until after they leave. Just under 7 minutes go by and the fresh chicken burger is ready. I take it out. On my way back from a different order, she flags me down. Shit. The chicken is too tough for her to cut. The fries are cold. Oh, damn it. It wasn't tough, by the way. A round of apologies once more, and I ask if there's anything at all I can do to help. She picks up the burger without the chicken in it, and sort of brandishes it at me, and asks if she should just eat the burger with only the lettuce and mayo in it. I don't know, ma'am. Again, I'm sorry. Is there anything at all I can do to help? At that point, she scoffs again and vaguely shakes her head. I wander back to the kitchen, and my manager takes the chicken burger off the bill. I go back to the table to let them know, and then she starts ranting about how disgraceful it is that it doesn't matter because she wouldn't get what she wanted. She asks eventually for our chicken tender appetizer. Thankfully, they go out and nothing is wrong, until my head perks up from its section. "The other one said the tenders were free." I go back to glass polishing. I had lost interest by then. The thing is, I was neither the chef nor the person who took their order. All I did was carry the food because I had no drinks to make. I wasn't involved in any of the steps of the process being complained about. I had no influence in events at all. The waiter hands the order tablet to the manager in the kitchen, who comps one of their coffees just to get her out of the restaurant. Our few other tables just sort of smiled awkwardly at us when they left. Now I'm here. Good times. 3. I spent the last 3 years traveling around the world doing this and that, and having a grand old time. I heard about a gig in Canada that sounded pretty sweet, working up at a fishing lodge in Whoop Whoop for 4 months, and earning a heap of moolah whilst doing so. It was a mix of housekeeping and serving, neither of which I'd done before, but I picked it up easily. Also, huge shout out to servers. You guys and gals cop so much shit for so little pay. It was only after working that job I realized how bloody amazing you all are. Pat, pat, pat. Anywho, the novelty of it all at the start made me look past a lot of the dickish customers. But towards the end of the season, everyone is fried, and your patience wears thin. For the most part, the guests were fine. The old-timers who saved all their money and came up on their yearly fishing trips with their best mate or missus were my favorite. Great to talk to when things slowed down, and were so rapt to be up there no staff could do any wrong. And without fail, they loved my Aussie accent and wanted to know everything about me. Tiring, but adorable. Then there were the corporate guests. Some were nice. Most were entitled douche canoes with too much money and not enough common sense. Any issue we had around the lodge could generally be traced back to these guys. But we couldn't do much about it because they were so good for business. So for the most part you'd give them a wide berth and be courteous, as opposed to openly friendly and chatty. When guests paid for their 4-day trip, all food is included, as is open bar on wine and beer. Spirits had to be charged, but you can obviously get absolutely maggoted off a few brewskis with the boys. And that's what these corporate groups tended to do. Leery comments to us serving chicks happened most nights, and you just brush them off. You had to have a thick skin working there, and I used to work in the mines in Oz, so it honestly didn't bother me much. Till the day some absolute asswipe of a human decided he had the right to touch me. Whenever I'd bring this group drinks or clear their plates, this one guy would always accidentally brush his arm against my arm or hips. Initially I ignored it and his slimy, filthy remarks, though I knew what he was doing. Then one evening I had my long black shirt sleeves rolled up, because it was abnormally hot inside, and you could see some of the tattoos on my arms. He decides it would be acceptable to grab my arm while I was holding 3 roast beef-laden plates for their table. I'm standing there awkwardly holding these plates, while he starts asking me what the tattoos mean. Just as I take a step back and start telling him not to touch me. God, I wish I'd had some pithy comeback, but I drew a blank. Enter this absolute whirlwind of a grandma. She had been watching this dude all trip mildly harass me and had had it with him. All 5 foot nothing of her got up in this guy's face in front of his mates and tore him a new one. I wish I could remember what she said verbatim, but it went a little something like this.
How dare you think you have any right to touch this young lady? Here she is, doing her job, and you think you have some God-given right to not only talk to her inappropriately, but to touch her too? Shame on you. You've obviously done well for yourself professionally, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this isn't the first time you've behaved like this. There's a special place in hell for people like you.
He went beet red and contemplated his navel for the entire showdown. When she was done, she asked me if I was okay, which I was, and then she just calmly sat back down and went on with her dinner with her hubby. If I make it to that age, I hope to hell I'm as gutsy and brave as her. Hats off to you, awesome Canadian lady. You made my serving experience a positively memorable one. 4. January 1st, New Year. Let's kick this off right. Wrong. I manage a small family-owned Italian and pizza joint by the beach. Show up to discover my employee is so hungover he's running to the bathroom every 5 minutes to puke. Great. I'm like, okay, just man the phones because my delivery guy is running around like crazy because everyone is hungover and wants pizza. Restaurant fills up. I handle it just fine. Get everything under control and send home my driver. Then comes the table. A family of 5, they get settled in. In the meantime, in walks a 7-top, followed by a 6-top. No big deal, I got this. Greet the table. Hello guys, blah blah blah, so what can I get you to drink? They all stare at me like I asked them to solve global warming on the spot. Dad orders a margarita with salt. Youngest orders a Sprite. Then Dad starts talking about what they should order. I stand there for a few more minutes like I don't exist. Okay, I'll give you a few more minutes. Greet other said tables, get drinks orders. Make the man his margarita with salt and get Sprite. Now 2 of the kids are missing from the table. Okay, I'll come back. Run drinks to the other tables. They're ready to order. Great. As I'm taking the second table's order, I see the margarita man approach my dishwasher to tell him his margarita with salt is too salty. Shake my head. Okay, make new margarita. Deliver it to the table. Get the rest of the drink orders. Kids start ordering over each other. One of the gals orders the pizza, well done, for the table. Great. Now Mom wants to know what our vegan options are. I inform her we can do a pizza without cheese and also our marinara contains no cheese. By the way, you're in an Italian and pizza restaurant. Sorry, we aren't super vegan friendly. She orders eggplant parm, no cheese. I try to steer her away from this as I know it won't have great taste without the cheese. She says she still wants it. Great. Wonderful, I'll get the order going. Run the salads, all good, bring out the food, pizza last. Dad literally takes a pizza spatula and starts poking at it.
We said no onions.
No, you did not. The daughter who ordered it did not say it, nor did you mention it when you guys took 5 minutes to confirm someone ordered the pizza. Next.
Where's the gorgonzola cheese?
Well, sir, it's cheese. It melts. If you look under the mozzarella, you'll see it. He stabs the pizza and sees the cheese. Then,
you don't have real plates. I order a $40 pizza and you expect me to eat it off paper plates?
What I wanted to scream was, do you know how many pizzas I sell in a day? Do you really expect me to provide china for the hundreds of pizzas we sell a day? But as I began to offer to get real plates, one of the kids says it'll be fine. I check on them a few times, rounds of soda refills. Check time. Now our restaurant has a policy of 18% included for groups of 5 or more. Now usually if it's a set of parents and 3 young kids I let it go, babies don't count. But these kids were in their teens. I watch one of the kids go grab a menu, so Mom can find where it's written that we charge grat for our parties. They leave, thank God. But here comes the review. Margarita, with salt, was too salty. Pizza they ordered well done was burnt. The eggplant parm, with no cheese, was unedible. The salad they ordered came with the wrong dressing. No, it didn't. Finally, how dare a business charge grat for a family with 3 kids, ages 14 to 19. Happy New Year to me. On the plus side, the other 2 large tables saw the hassle and tipped generously, so I guess I can thank the table for that. Good luck out there. 5. Hey all, I want to vent about the worst customer I've ever had. This was a big group from a company celebrating Christmas, about 60 people, in the second floor of the restaurant, so we had 2 waiters there. It's a pretty international group. With reservations that big, we always warn that food won't get there at the same time for all the tables, as we book it separately to give the kitchen a head start, to be able to deliver it to the right table. And even if we did it all simultaneously, we would still need to carry it all up, and that takes time, about 15 to 20 minutes from the first table to the last. It all started about 10 minutes after the group had gotten there. A woman walked down to the bar and yelled at my colleague that she had ordered an alcohol-free beer 45 minutes ago, and that other tables had drinks and she hadn't gotten hers yet. All while yelling the entire time. She was Spanish, and some of what she yelled was in English and some in Spanish. We're in Germany, so many kind of speak English here, but not really. So my colleague couldn't understand her very well. The bartender tells her that it is probably one of the next trays going up, that it will be there shortly, but she yells and demands a beer with alcohol now, blaming him for making her drink alcohol even though she didn't initially want to. My colleague simply gave her a beer and continued with the drinks. Of course, when the woman got back upstairs, the alcohol-free beer was already waiting for her at her table. I was working downstairs, but after a while the waiter from upstairs asked me to come up and translate as the woman was yelling in Spanish again. I'm Mexican. I went to the woman's table. This was about 30 minutes after they had gotten there. She started yelling at me in Spanish again before I could even state I speak Spanish. She complained she had been there for 2 hours already and had only gotten entrees until now. And some of the other tables already had their main course. I explained to her that if they were only now done with their entrees, that it would take a couple of minutes for us to bring up the main course. That it was probably almost ready, and that I would gladly go look if the cooks could make it any faster. And explained that if the other tables got food first, it was because they ate their entrees quicker. She didn't seem to even listen and kept yelling loudly. The entire table looked embarrassed. I eventually apologized to them and told them that I would go look after their food and walked off as the woman kept yelling. I wasn't there for the next part, but my colleague was at another table taking second drink orders, and the woman stood behind him trying to get his attention, talking to him loudly in Spanish over the other guests. He turned around and told her to please sit down, that he would be right by them once he was done with this table. The woman just ran downstairs furiously, screaming at the manager that she needed to talk to the manager. A colleague quickly waved me over to translate. "Your employee upstairs just yelled at me in Spanish to shut up and sit down. Your service is horrible. We waited 40 minutes for our drinks and 2 hours just for our entrees." My manager asked her exactly what happened with my colleague upstairs, and knowing she had been making trouble this whole time, called my colleague downstairs. The guy is Greek, so he doesn't exactly look German, but he also doesn't speak a word of Spanish. I know that for a fact. The woman went crazy. "That's him! He called me a slut! He told me to shut up and sit down! All in Spanish. You need to fire him!" I proceed to explain to her that my colleague doesn't speak Spanish, and that he wouldn't and couldn't have told her that. That it was probably a misunderstanding. "Of course he yelled at me in Spanish. I know what I heard." "Are you saying I'm crazy? I'm not crazy." All of this was in Spanish, so no one but me and her could understand. I just looked at the lady with the sweetest smile I could fake and said in a calm voice, "I'm not just saying it. You are." The woman demanded to speak to the manager, who was standing right in front of her, and he was just like, "You're speaking to him?" She demanded all of us be fired immediately, and my manager tries to explain it was a misunderstanding, and that she would of course get her bill on the house. She then simply screamed loudly and stormed out of the restaurant. The happy ending? My manager went upstairs to apologize to the boss and organizers, and they ended up apologizing to him and my colleague, telling them the woman always made such scenes and that she was kind of crazy. And they tipped my friend really good as an apology. Man, some people. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates number 79. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. And I hope you're all having a very lovely and wonderful and relaxed Saturday night. I may or may not be joining you for a stream tonight, I'm not sure. I do have quite a bit of work still to do to wrap up so I can take next week off. What's happening next week anyway? Star Trek Picard starts next week. That starts on the 23rd. I think there'll be a new series of Sabrina up at some point. That's also good. I'm quite enjoying the chilling adventures of Sabrina. And mostly I plan on doing as little as possible. If I do skip the stream on Saturday, I may stream at some point throughout the week. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.